What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing something completely different, something that I've never done before. So I'm going to be reviewing this. This is the Panasonic Lumix FZ82. So this is a bridge camera. So since I've just upgraded to a Canon 250D, I thought why not give a shot at doing a camera review. So this is going to be completely honest guys, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to talk about what I thought was good about the camera, what's not so good about the camera, what's just really bad about the camera. So guys, there is plenty good, there's plenty bad on this thing, so let's get right into the video. So to start off, let's go over some of the specs. So this camera actually has some pretty decent specs. It's a bridge camera capable of shooting in 4K video, which is actually really impressive considering the price. So I paid 349 euros for this, which is roughly 347 US dollars. As I said, this camera is capable of 4K video, so that 4K video comes at 30 frames per second. If you want to bump up the FPS, you need to lower down to 1080. However, 30 frames per second in 4K is plenty. But in case you do want to shoot in 1080, it offers 1080 at 60 frames per second, and it also offers 720p at 30 frames per second. But if you ask me, I have no idea why you are shooting 720 at 30 frames per second, since you have the option of 1080 and 4K video. And while we're on the topic of specs, this also has a pretty decent sensor. It's got a 18.1 megapixel sensor. So on paper, things look really good considering the price. As I said, the specs look really good for this camera. It also has a 60 times optical zoom. I don't know if you can see it there on the camera, which again is really good. However, you're not going to use it that much. I didn't use it that much. You might use it. So for the price, you're getting a pretty decent camera on paper. So you notice I said on paper you get a pretty decent camera. The spec sheet looks really good. However, in reality, I wasn't too blown away with this camera. I found the colours in the camera were not that great. With the settings in the camera, you know, I felt like you could play around with the settings. They didn't really do much. So if you're going out shooting on a day with not the best lighting conditions, you can almost forget about it. So in all honesty, I think, you know, it's good as a beginner, but I think there's better beginner cameras out there. If your budget can just stretch that little bit, guys, I think there are some better cameras out there that may offer some better colours, similar specifications, better battery life, and settings that actually make a difference. So obviously I use this camera for making YouTube videos, so it's pretty much what I'm going to be judging this camera on. I didn't do too much photography with it. However, I did, you know, dabble in a bit of photography with it. It's really difficult to get a good shot with this camera, and I don't know why the settings don't really make too much of a difference. You know, maybe I was just using the camera wrong. However, on the Canon 250D, you know, I'm able to get decent shots with the camera, so maybe it's just something with this. Maybe it's just me being too critical of a beginner camera. I don't know, just wasn't the easiest thing in the world to use. So with the settings on the camera not making too much of a difference, you know, it is down to the lighting outside, especially for me. Like, I make fishing videos, so it's really down to the lighting outside, and I live in Ireland, so it's not the sunniest country the best of times. And with that 4K video, you can only record 4K for 15 minutes at a time. So what I found is a lot of the time I'm looking at the camera timer, making sure we don't run out of time, because what could happen sometimes is I actually missed like a fish strike because the camera ran out of time and I wasn't recording, which would have been an absolute nightmare. Something similar could happen where I'd run out of battery, because this thing didn't really have a great battery life either. But it's not all bad. At the end of the day, it did get me started. You know, it's kind of all I wanted as a beginner. It really is a beginner camera. I cannot stress that enough. So what I would say is, if you're trying to trial things out with videos of photography, don't know if you're going to stick it, sure, go for this. You know, if you think you're going to stick it out, I would recommend going a little bit higher end. And I'm going to talk about a camera which I think you may want to buy, which is it is more expensive, but it's not astronomically more expensive. Another thing I didn't really like about this camera was, yeah, look, the sound is decent in it, but what I thought would have kept me using this camera for a little bit longer is if it had a input for an external microphone, which it didn't have. Obviously I've upgraded to a camera that does. I'm probably going to get an external microphone just to make that difference in the sound quality, but I think, guys, you want to get a camera that has an external microphone input because it will make all the difference. It's something that you need to invest in fairly shortly. So should you buy the camera? If your budget absolutely does not stretch any further than the 349 euros or 347 US dollars, absolutely go for it. I would say if you can spare a bit of change, go for something like the Canon 2000D, which is a DSLR camera. Obviously, being a DSLR camera, the Canon 2000D will offer a much better battery life, which will be much better for, say, a beginner shooting YouTube videos, whatever it may be. The only thing about that camera, it doesn't offer the 4K, but in reality YouTube always compresses 4K videos to 1080, at least for me anyway. So as I said, you may want to get the Canon 2000D. You're asking what price does that come in? That comes in at 599 euros. It's probably going to be about 598 US dollars. Euro and US dollars are pretty much on parity now anyway, which is a big difference. It's a 250 euro difference. But in my opinion, it's just going to be a much better camera for you, and it's something that you're probably going to use more long term than this Lumix FZ82. So in summary, yeah, beginner camera, pretty decent, not great. Best way I can sum it up. As I said, if you are looking to get into videos, this is your thing. If you think it might be more long term, definitely invest in the Canon 2000D, or maybe a mirrorless camera, something just a little bit more expensive, maybe better colors, something that you can maybe use more long term. So that's it for me, guys. That's my honest review on this camera. If you want me to see, or if you want me to do a review on the Canon 250D, which I'm using now, make sure you drop the video a like, and as always, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell and show your support, guys. It really keeps me going. Yeah, and I'll catch you all in the next video.